basis. I would make the excuses to myself and her that it would help me work in the marijuana garden in the facility out back, and so we continued to use it, and our relationship continued to deteriorate, and eventually we're again out of money, and that's when we reached out to my mom because we found a person who wanted to buy the facility from us, who was a mutual friend of ours. Originally he was my friend first, but he became friends with both of us, and he offered to buy the facility. Her brother-in-law had invested money into the facility as well, and we were looking for a way to repay him for his investment, because it was clear right when we started that grow, marijuana in California went completely legal. So it was legalized for recreational use, and the cost of a completely produced pound of marijuana went from roughly $2,800 to $1,200. So there was no margin left. It cost roughly $900 at that time to produce a fully produced pound of marijuana when you factor in all the electricity and the nutrients and the cost of people to help you trim it. So all of a sudden there was no money in the industry, and we were broke again. So we were looking for a way out, and we reached out to my mom and asked her if we could move to Michigan.
Okay, you heard Jessica testify about severe abuse in your relationship. Do you agree with Jessica's testimony about your relationship being abusive?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't say that there was abuse, but there was constant turmoil between the two of us post Lake Elsinore. So by turmoil, I mean violent arguments, and by violent, I mean shouting, door slamming, holes being kicked indoors by both of us, things being thrown. I remember glasses being thrown out of the kitchen by Jessica at me. We both became very unhappy and very unstable, and I attribute it to the methamphetamine. I will say from a personal standpoint that I am at my lowest character of person whenever I had used that substance, and it really reduced me to someone that I never saw myself being, and never would ever want to be again, because I no longer would know how to communicate, and that kind of was also something that I feel Jessica struggled with, and it became a point of just friction, constant friction, and a lot of alcohol. We would both drink while using the methamphetamine, but it really doesn't affect you that much when you're using it. The alcohol doesn't. And then while not using it, Jessica would drink even heavier, and that's when her temper would escalate or would show itself, mostly when Jessica was drinking. And throughout that period of time, all through post my release in 2016, all the way up until Lake Elsinore, to my personal knowledge, Jessica had not been maintaining her mental health drugs, meaning what she always told me she took for that was Prozac, and she had gotten off of that, and I believe it was likely because things were going so well in Long Beach that she really felt that she was ready to put that behind her. And when we regressed in Lake Elsinore, the fact that she wasn't on the medication and the fact that she was using the methamphetamine really took a toll on her mental health. And I think it's my belief that she still is using it based on the drug tests that have been submitted to the court. And I think that has played a really strong part in the decline of her mental health. I think it's taken a permanent toll, possibly, at this point.
So, testified that you were severely abusive and to the point of trying to kill her, and I want you to address physical abuse allegation.
There was no physical abuse between Jessica and I. The only thing that would have been physical would have been the stuff to property, like the doors or her throwing the glasses I never ever physically touched Jessica in a abusive way. And as I submitted to you, and I believe you submitted to the court, Jessica has made those same statements to other courts regarding that fact.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. There's an absolute lack of foundation that Jessica has made accusations in other courts about people being physically abusive.
Okay.
She didn't say that.
Isn't that something that you can cover in cross-examination? I mean, he's
I can.
telling his, yeah,
Okay.
all right. You can continue. Mom has made allegations of,
Actually, Your Honor, what I said was she's made written statements to other courts stating that I have never been abusive.
Oh, okay. I
Oh.
withdraw the objection.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Realistic
You're
testimony.
You're referring to the statements that are already admitted in the record. The statement where she recanted the allegation against you in Michigan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were there? I just want to clarify so nobody's confused. Were there any other statements you were referring to, or just those two?
Those two statements.
Okay. Has she had a TPO taken out on you when you were in California for domestic violence?
No, she has not. Because of the false report that she made in Michigan, there was one that was automatically issued by the court in Michigan in 2019.
Right. I mean, you got the arrest, and then they issued the no contact order at the same time. I'm not talking about Michigan. I'm still before you got to. We're right at the point in your timeline where you moved to Michigan, but I was
Okay,
referring
so
to the time period
The
before that.
simple answer is no.
When was
Can
Madison
you,
born?
can you give me 1 minute? I've got a little bit of a cold and I need to get some tissue. It might bother me a little bit, and I
Got
need to step away for just 1 second. Is that okay, Your Honor?
Sure.
Thank you.
Your Honor, at some point, I think we're going to have to talk about scheduling as well.
Oh yeah, it's 4:35.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right. So when was Madison born?
He was born April 7th, 2017.
You guys started using meth and drinking pretty soon after Madison was born.
Yeah, because we moved to Lake Elsinore at the beginning of 2018, so she would have been pretty young.
Okay. Was Madison ever removed from your or Jessica's care?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay. How was your how was Jessica's caregiving abilities? I mean, how did Madison do in that environment? No.
We shared the caretaking abilities we always have. Up until the false abuse accusation that was made in Michigan, I had never spent a night away from Madison. I was there every single day. After I would come home from work, I would do all of Madison's bath and dinner time with her. A lot of times Jessica would be already intoxicated and say that she had had Madison all day and it was my turn to deal with it, which I was fine with because I wanted to spend time with her. So we shared the caretaking responsibilities, and we did the very best we could considering our addiction issues.
Okay.
We did what we could to shelter Madison from the addiction issues that were prevalent in our relationship at that time.
Okay, but at a certain point, was the call to your mother sort of a cry for help, or what was the point of calling your mother?
Yes, absolutely. We were at our rope's end, and we wanted family members around us, which is kind of why we reached out to her brother and sister and relocated closer to them. Jessica goes through some pretty deep battles with depression where she feels very alone, and she goes back and forth through the state of wanting to be completely alienated from her family and then wanting them back. So she's been that's a pattern that's carried on throughout the entire time that I've known her, with her mother and also with her sister and her brother. We went to Lake Elsinore to try to draw her family in closer. When that didn't work and that became a negative situation, then she became open to trying to become closer with my family, who was in Michigan.
Okay. What happened when you got to Michigan?
We moved in. We stayed at my mom's for a week just to see her. We hadn't seen her for a period of time. We're still very rattled from Lake Elsinore. We were still very unstable. And so we were drinking and arguing even at my mother's house. And my mother was not comfortable with. My mother and Jessica never really connected very strongly. And I think my mother felt that Jessica was negative influence, that we were toxic together. In hindsight, I agree 100% wholeheartedly with that statement. But at the time, I loved Jessica so much that anyone who spoke negatively about her, I would take a stand against. And that's eventually what happened with my mom. My mom was pulling me aside at the house when we were staying with her, telling me negative things that she felt about Jessica and the effect that she was having and her concerns. And eventually, after an evening of drinking, Jessica and I and my mom and her husband got into a loud argument because I was defending Jessica. And so my mom didn't want us to stay any longer than we absolutely needed to. So I reached out to my brother. We actually left that night. I walked off. Jessica had them take her to a motel, and we left and stayed in a motel that night. And I called my brother the following day, and he said that we could come stay with him. And so that's what we did. We went to live with my brother, and that went pretty good for us. We moved to Michigan in, I want to say, August of 2018, and by the third week of us being there, I had secured a really good full-time job in the manufacturing industry for a company that is a subsidiary of Tesla, and I got hired there on a temporary basis. They do a temp hire for 90 days. They hired me as a permanent employee and promoted me to a managerial position before that 90-day period was even up, and I secured a stable income for us and began working at that company while we were living at my brother's.
Okay, so tell me about the drug use. So you were using in Lake Elsinore, but did you continue when you got to Michigan?
No, so we were able to cut that out of our life, thankfully. But the drinking continued pretty heavily on Jessica's behalf. Basically, I was working second shift, so I would go into work at like 2:30 and not get out of work until 11:30 and 12:30 some nights, depending on how much overtime I put in. And so I would come home to find Jessica, up, drunk. She likes to drink Mike's hard lemonade, and for whatever reason, that stuff seemed to keep her up. I don't know if there was other stuff I didn't know about or medications or anything else, but she would stay up in an intoxicated state, and I would come home after working, 10 hours and find Jessica combative and drunk when I got home on a regular basis. And Madison would be asleep by that period in time. And I don't know, drinking all day while Madison was up, or she waited until she got Madison to sleep. But so the alcohol continued to be an issue for her. I was so busy working, I didn't have time even to drink. I would get home and be so tired, and it would be so late that I would literally go straight to bed, and I would sleep until 8 a.m. and then have only a few hours before, I had to get back to work.
And were you contributing to taking care of Madison then?
So I would do as much as I could in the morning. During that period of time, I would do as much as I could in the morning and spend time with her, make breakfast, that sort of thing. I was the sole provider financially, so I was contributing in that regard. And then once I received the promotion to what they call extrusion press operator, which was leading to extrusion press supervisor, I became a first shift employee, and that allowed me to go into work at 6 a.m. and be out earlier in the day, and then I was able to spend those evenings with Madison.
Okay, tell me about your relationship with Madison.
My relationship with Madison has been so strong and so amazing since the very beginning. I mean, I have so many pictures of her when she was just an infant, and she's been daddy's girl since day one, in my opinion. She is an amazing person, amazing child, and I'm very thankful that to this day she somehow has been able to hold on to that light and that character that she has, even through all that she's endured over the last, since September of last year. I know that it's affected her greatly. I think being told to lie and feeling the pressure that she felt when she was in her mother's care and had to, fabricate stories and be video recorded, and that definitely has taken a toll on her, but she remains just the sweetest little girl that ever.
Okay, so you were doing the night shift for 90 days, and then you got the new position, and after 90 days you went to the 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Is that correct?
So, no. The new position, I did a training phase where I stayed on second shift originally, and then I would say probably after 2 months of the training, I then went to first shift. So it was probably more like 4 to 5 months of being at the company that I moved from second shift to first shift.
What time frame are you talking about now?
Now we're into we're getting into 2019. We've moved from so I got hired in August of 2018, and we've moved into 2019. Been promoted.
And this is up in Michigan?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. At some point, Ms. Cole, let me know when you're at a good stopping place.
So I just want to get to, I think it's going to be pretty short. Talk to me about where you were living, because at some point you get to the incident in the campsite, I believe it was.
Originally, we lived temporarily with my brother, and then we secured our own residence at what was a vacation rental. So basically, it was a really nice home for Michigan, on Lake Michigan, about, 300 yards from the lake in the main strip of town. And so we rented a 2-bedroom apartment at that. It was basically like a home that had been broken into. For each floor was its own vacation rental. And so we rented that, and this was in the winter period. And so it was like an off-season rental. So we rented it for, I think, like 6 or 8 months, maybe less. I don't know if it's less, probably less than 8. And then once summer rolled around, then we had to move out that rental because she was going to rent it. The owner was going to rent it to vacationees who would pay like $1,500 a week, and we were only paying $1,000 a month.
What time frame are we when you had to move out? Was that the summer of 2019?
That was shortly before we left Michigan. So I would say we moved out in July, maybe the very end of June, and we couldn't secure a rental anywhere else in that summer season. It's very difficult to secure rentals. The town is like a resort, bed and breakfast type town, and so based on the fact that we couldn't find a rental in the short period of time that we had to find a rental, we bought a travel trailer, and that's what we ended up moving into. I'm sorry to jump topics real quick, but I had to unplug my computer in order to plug in the light, and right now my computer is very low on battery, so I'm going to either need to disconnect the light and plug in the computer, or take some time to try to find a different extension cord or something of that sort.
Ms. Cole?
Maybe we can stop here. I don't want to.
All right, you can go ahead and plug in your computer and unplug the light, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, so it is 4:48, so it's a good time to stop for the day. So we'll start with continued direct exam of Dad by Ms. Cole for defendant's case in chief, and I've got. I've got May 16th at 1:30. I think that's Monday. And then the next date certain that I have is September 12th at 1:30.
Let's do Monday at 1:30.
Can you do Monday at 1:30, Ms. Cole?
Your Honor, if I may ask a question before we do get dismissed, if you have time, just let me know.
Okay. I can't tell if. I don't think Ms. Cole's talking.
She was talking.
No.
Oh, okay.
It looks like I have a 10 a.m. and an 11 a.m.
So the time I have available is 1:30.
Yeah, so,
That just opened up this morning.
Let's do it.
All right.
yeah, I would like to get,
Okay, is there any chance of finishing Monday afternoon?
I think I will, hour maybe?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
In maybe an hour or less? More? An hour to an hour more?
All right, I'm sure there's.
So I can address,
See,
it's just so I can address the what I can from everything that's been said. I could,
okay, and then I know Mr. Schoenfeld's probably going to want to cross-examine.
Yeah, but I don't imagine my cross would take more than an hour. Probably, I would assume less than an hour.
All right, are there any other witnesses that we're going to call?
I don't believe so.
Ms. Cole?
no.
Okay, so we'll plan on finishing up then Monday afternoon at 1:30. What else do we need to discuss here?
I was just going to ask the court and Ms. Church if y'all would be okay with moving Madison's call to tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. She has a scheduled call tonight, but I have a lot to do based on being here all day. I need to go pick her up from school and get dinner and everything done for her, so it's going to be an extremely busy evening. And she goes to bed between 7:30 and 7:45. So would it be okay with everyone if we moved that call
To tomorrow?
to tomorrow at 7 p.m.?
Ms. Church, it's up to you.
I guess so.
Okay. All right. So
And you're,
All right,
I was going
thank you.
to address the visitation, but since we're coming back on Monday, we can deal with it then.
okay. All right. Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, I would like to try, if you can, I know you sent a text, Ms. Colbert, any additional
Oh,
information that you can get would be greatly appreciated about the status of the criminal proceedings.
yes, and my phone actually, the battery died about an hour ago, so it's been up in the reception on a charger. But when it died, I hadn't received a response, and it had been hours.
Well, if you wouldn't
So
mind,
if I do get one, I'll let you know.
would you please go and check it, or have somebody bring
Yes.
it to you or something before we adjourn?
Okay. He did not respond yet.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday at 1:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.